Hello. What we're going to be doing now is trying to understand how corporate culture works. And the idea is using corporate culture as a way to coordinate the strategy of a company. So let's go deep into this and try to understand both what is corporate culture, what do we mean by this, and how we can use it, and then the different types of corporate culture that we can identify in organizations and the role that they play into coordinating the actions of individuals within those organizations, of course. So corporate culture is slightly, if you want a broader discussion, why do people work? Why do we join an organization? What motivates us to do certain things? Long different types of things from intrinsic motivations. I'm just going to do it. I really like it. It's mostly something that basically is coming from the inside to different types of extrinsic motivations. Yes, it's basically, it gets me into an organization. I become identified with it. I basically get into the approval of others, or I'm required to be outside. I need it, or basically a motivation. I don't really care about the work that is happening. Lots of different types, and this to some extent is, if you want, the story behind the corporate culture and the importance of using corporate culture to motivate people towards the achievement of the goals of the organization. So a different, or if you want, a simpler way of understanding motivation is 6 Ps or 6 likes. Direct, indirect. Why do I work? Why do people work? How do these attitudes help the company achieve its objectives? Direct motivations, I like it. It's just intrinsic. And this is a variation of what we saw a minute ago. It's the play story. I like the job. It gives me purpose. It gives me a sense of, hey, look, maybe I don't like the job, but it's having a lot of impact outside. It's really good for society. It's really good for what I'm trying to achieve. I'm willing to invest the time and the effort to achieve this. Or it's maybe not now, but it's going to be a step towards something I want to achieve later on. It's going to provide me with a way to ensure my future. It's like the story of in the future, yes, sacrifices now for and the good things that are going to be coming later. All of these are direct motivations. Indirect, and it's kind of not quite something coming from the inside, but mostly come from the outside. Emotional pressures, call it pressure in general. Why am I working? Why am I putting all these long hours? Because I think that there is this pressure, emotional pressure. I belong to this group, and I don't want to leave people unhappy that I'm not contributing my best, and I'm just doing things not for myself, but basically as a reaction to others and the social pressures that you may face. Or, well, you need the money, and this is going to be paying the bill. So, yes, I'm not really into the job, but nevertheless, it gives me a good pay. It enables me to achieve other things thanks to this particular pay. Or in some cases, and this is, again, the most extreme, well, why do I do it? Well, I've been doing it for a while. I just continue it. Why not? It's basically you just pass. You like the routine. You just keep doing the same thing. Why is this important? Because this is then it sets the stage for understanding corporate culture and how can we design a system in which not the control, but the incentives that come from the social side enable people to be motivated to work. So with this corporate culture, what is this? Tacit social order of an organization. Basically, an understanding of how things work in this organization. Why is it that on that social side, we are doing things the way we do? We have to understand the norms, the values, the beliefs that drive people's decisions within the organization. Important notions here, it is shared. This is not just something that is given, but everybody within the organization does understand and accepts that this is the way things are working, and the way you do it is as soon as you join, they are going to give you cues, they are going to give you examples, they are going to give you set of norms, some cases implicit, explicit. This is how we do things. In some cases, you have to basically learn them. And as you continue working with people, you get a sense of why things are happening. And eventually, you incorporate those values within your decision making. This is a socialization process. Then the other story is pervasive. It is broadly used by everybody. You can have subsets of individuals having their own set of rules, but then there is also a broader way of doing things. This is the way in which we understand the world. This is what drives us, and this is how we make decisions. And this is something that is going to continue. And in some cases, we've set certain norms of behavior that eventually the context changes, but nevertheless, we continue doing this. Why? Because we have been socialized and we just internalize it. And then that's a story of this internalization. It becomes tacit, it is implicit, it is something that I just take for granted, it is something that I have accepted, and in some cases, it, for the most part, helps people coalesce and make decisions much faster. How do we understand this? How do I identify this? Well, 3 different levels, and they go from the more abstract to from the more explicit to the less explicit, for the more less to the more abstract. First thing, you enter a company and you see how things are organized, the physical space, layout of the office, how people dress, how people interact, space in between desks, space in between individuals. It just gives you an idea of what is happening here. It is something that everybody can observe while you enter the office, and yes, big open space, or just lots of cubicles, or just long table, hot desking or not. It does gives you a sense of what are, to some extent, the norms, the values that are embedded. The next thing you have to do is start meeting people to try to get a sense of the values. Why is it that this is happening? Why is it that we have long tables? What are we trying to achieve? Why are these very short meetings? Why not very long meetings? Everybody's on time, nobody's on time. Why is this happening here? What do we understand from these type of behaviors? And eventually, and this is the harder part, assumption. People have ingrained them. They are embedded in the way they understand things, and it's not something that you can easily explain to others. And this is something that you gain over time through the process of socialization. So the idea is set of norms that we take for granted through socialization, and that is going to drive the way in which we make decisions. So, next story, changing this. Well, how do we do this? The process of different people coming into the company, and eventually they bring their own set of values and beliefs, and slowly this might be changing. Or look, there are big external transformations. There is a change in the context, lots of competition, related competition, globalization, new technologies that force people to question their assumptions, question their values, and then eventually change the way in which they understand corporate culture and how decisions are made. And with this, we get into an example, which I think is a really nice example because this is a company that makes it explicit. So you can read it, you can pause the video and read it, but the notion here is this is what we value. This is how we make things. This is not the grand story of a mission and vision, but this is a story of making the corporate culture explicit. What do? Encourage decision-making by employees, share information openly, broadly, and deliberately, communicate candidly and directly, keep only our highly effective people, and avoid rules. It might be something that works well with some people, and it might be something that doesn't work well with others. The notion here is by making it explicit, you understand what you're getting into, you understand what the expectations are, and as a result, later on, there might be no little surprises. Important thing here is it drives decision-making. This is one way to coordinate without the traditional, if you want, hierarchy or coordination or monitoring that comes. That's the corporate governance story. It's a complement to corporate governance. Then different types. This is a very traditional way of separating types of organizations in terms of corporate culture. What is the degree of flexibility or stability that we have, and what is the degree that we are reacting to internal to external pressures? And as a result, we end up with 4 different types: plan, adhocracy, market, or hierarchy. Very internal decision making, lots of stability, hierarchy. This is you follow the rules, you follow what other people are telling you. versus the, yes, there is a lot of stability, but it's just reaction. It's basically what is happening to the external reactions to the external market. So it's just competition. The best is going to win. It's just you are going to be taking care of yourself because you are going to be competing with others within the company. Or you are going to have less, a focus on the internal, with lots of flexibility, so there is a sense of belonging in the clan and all these things, or there is flexibility and a focus on the external, adhocracy, you join, and there is basically a lot of movement and a focus on what is happening outside. Taking this very traditional approach, the next level is, well, these are 4, why don't we end up with different types, or slightly more sophisticated 8 different types of corporate culture. So basically the axes are similar, they are flipped over, flexibility, stability, and then dependence or independence, focus on the internal, focus on the external. We have 4 types. Within flexible and interdependent, caring and purpose-oriented corporate cultures. Within independent and flexible, enjoyment and learning corporate cultures. Within interdependent and stability, order and safety corporate cultures. And within independence and stability, results and authority corporate cultures. A few examples here of companies that appear to have this type of corporate culture. And a clarification of which one is better. Well, all of them have advantages, all of them have disadvantages. It's not a matter of better versus worse, but it's a matter of how they have been implemented and initially by, in many cases, founders, and how those are later on going to be evolving over time with, again, internal changes, people that join, and also reactions to the external environment. So yes, the caring corporate culture can be fantastic. It's really good for teamwork, engagement, all these things, but it might basically reduce options and looking outside because we are just focusing on with making sure that everybody feels embedded. Going to, if you want, another extreme, results oriented, and this is basically the goals is the only thing that matters. External focus. And achieving those goals, yes, but at the end, we are not working well with each other. It's just the focus on the outside results, and we might not see this collaboration. And something similar with the others, purpose-oriented, idealistic, you're tolerant. You may want to be into learning. This is a fun place, and it's going to be great. We are going to help each other because we happen to enjoy the way things are. This is an authority-oriented corporate culture. There is a dominance in decisions, and you just go and this boss that basically makes the decisions, hierarchy and things, or the safety story, you are prepared and you are basically reducing risk. So again, positives and negatives, advantages and disadvantages. The important thing is as one joins a corporate organization, try to understand what is the corporate culture, because there is this challenge and that many cases happens that I don't understand it. There might be a clash. This might be a fantastic company, but I might not basically work well because my particular values, assumptions, and beliefs don't work well with the ones in the company. So how do we change culture? What is aspiration? Where do we want to go? Leaders playing a huge role here. What is the target? And then basically trying to, and this is the important thing, especially with external adaptation, maybe it worked in the past, big changes, how do we change this? How do we start thinking about there is a need for a change? We have to basically be conscious about the need for this change and then try to have conversations and a new socialization process so that eventually everybody gets integrated and people try not to basically reject the changes in the culture. So with this, corporate culture, what is this? Socially transmitted patterns of behavior. This is another way to coordinate strategy. This is another way to coordinate decision in which we as individuals become socialized, become embedded within the company, take some of the values and assumptions for granted, and that basically speeds up decision-making and cooperation and interaction with others. The important thing is understanding that, well, all of this is going to be driving the motivation for work, which are there are different types, and what drives me to basically work in an organization. Is it the play, the purpose, the potential? Is it the pressure, the pay, or the past? And then how is this going to match the particularities of that organizational culture? Let's analyze it. How is it that the way this company works or this organization works is going to match my potential desires, the way in which I see my objectives towards work, and basically that enables me to become integrated and be much more effective, and overall for the organization to be much better at coordinating individuals towards the achievement of strategy. Thank you very much for listening.